A company should think about who their stakeholders are and what those stakeholders want. This is part of planning processes that organizations go through. A stakeholder analysis can also be similar to a market analysis. So if you decide to start your own business and you want to take a loan from the bank, you need to do what's called a market analysis, which says, who are your potential customers? How many potential customers do you have? And are they really interested in the product or service that you're hoping to sell? Banks want to see this information before they loan you money because they want to know that someone's actually going to buy your products and services so you can pay the bank back. But companies want to know this because they're interested in making a profit. And so they want to know, are there potential people who could impact our ability to make a profit? So different things like, who are our relevant stakeholders? Who are our customers? Who are people who might be opposed to us? Who are the government entities that we have to answer to? Who are our competitors who might also be selling similar things? What are the interests of each of those stakeholders? Things like, what kinds of products and services do our customers want? What kind of laws and inspections and government agencies are we going to have to answer to? Are there people who would oppose our business interests? So are there nonprofit organizations or social organizations who think that our product, services, or corporate ethics are not in the interest of their community or their beliefs? What my competitors' interests are that I go out of business. So how do I work to be more powerful than my competitor because my interest is that they go out of business? What is the power of each stakeholder? Say there's a social organization that doesn't believe in my company or product and is actively trying to make sure that I can't sell it. Say, like PETA. So PETA is an organization that works towards making sure that no animal products are ever sold. That's one of their big interests. So they're going to be against companies who are selling beef or selling pork or selling any kind of animal product because they don't believe in that. So you have to say, how powerful is that group that they're going to be protesting me, they're going to be interrupting my business. Same thing, what's the power of my customers? The customer power looks different in different things. Think about when you walk into a grocery store and you're standing in the aisle, and maybe you're in the condiment aisle. And the customer has a lot of power in that because there is a lot of choice. There is a lot of competition for your dollar. I could stand there and see that there are 20 different kinds of ketchup that I could purchase. In that case, as a customer, I have more power than the company does because there's a lot of competition in that market. In other markets, such as think about when you're renting an apartment or buying a house and you're going to look who's going to provide the electric for that house. Well, then the company has the most power because in most instances, there's only one option to get your electricity from. So then the customer doesn't have power, the company does. Okay? How are coalitions likely to form? What a coalition is a group that comes together to fight or challenge your company. Sometimes coalitions get very, very large and become popular. Sometimes they're very small and are just a minor annoyance that you have to fight with. What are their concerns? What are they concerned about? Are they concerned about price? So the stakeholder group that I'm analyzing is customers. And one of my customers' concerns is price. And what price point will they pay, or will they consider far too much for a product? Okay. What do they want or expect from a relationship with the firm? Are they a customer who wants that relationship to be purely transactional? You have a product or service that I want. I give you money in exchange from that product or service, and that is the only relationship that I want from you. Or do I, as a customer, want that relationship to be fostered? I want you to provide sales to me, to provide a rewards program, to incentivize me to make economic transactions with you. I want your political opinions to be similar to my political opinions. And there are people who do that. There are entire websites that analyze the political positions of businesses and post those so that customers who want to purchase with their political affiliation in mind can make those decisions. I don't want to support this business because they have this particular political affiliation, so now I'm going to look and support their competitors instead. Okay, so these are all kinds of questions that are going to come up in this stakeholder analysis of who they are, what do they want from us, and how does what they want impact our bottom line, either positively or negatively. Because if positively, we want to keep doing what we're doing in order to encourage that, and if negatively, we want to figure out how to fix that so that the negative impact is extremely small on our organization. So talking about stakeholder power. So we have 5 different types of power. One is voter power. One of the things that you get if you are a shareholder or stockholder in a company is you get to vote. And the power of your vote depends on, of course, the amount that you own. If you have a 1% ownership in an organization, you have 1% voting power. But groups can come together. This is forming of a coalition. So shareholders can get together on the side and all agree to vote a certain way. Different things that shareholders have the right to vote for are policies of corporations, who the board of directors is. And the board of directors is responsible for hiring and firing the management of a corporation. Shareholders can also vote to oust a CEO. So if you anger your shareholders, they can form a coalition to go to the board of directors and have you kicked out of your position. So there have been a lot of, I know last week I was talking about the example where shareholders are now suing Target because of the amount of economic value that company has lost, hurting shareholders' return on investment. Okay, economic power. This usually lies with the consumer. I get to decide where my money goes. So if I'm giving you my money for a product or service, I've made that decision to come to you. I can just as easily decide not to purchase from you and go to your competitor. Okay? Political power. So, and this comes into like political lobbying. Do I have somebody, can I pay as a business, can I pay someone full-time to go to Washington and argue for legislation that works to my advantage? And most corporations do this. It's a lot more difficult for smaller businesses, nonprofit entities and stuff like that, to be able to have that kind of lobbying power that they can pay for somebody to have a full-time presence, talking to legislature, regulations and stuff. If I find out that regulation that is going to be very expensive to me or hurt the profit of my business, I might be incentivized to contact the people in Congress and encourage them to vote in my direction. Okay, so what's the power that I have to sway legislation or to get together with other companies to prevent or encourage different kind of legislation? Okay, legal power, lawsuits filed against the company for harm caused. So I've talked about different lawsuits already. Target being sued by their shareholders. The company that poisoned the water in Hinckley, California, causing 100% of its residents to become fatally ill. Another famous one we're going to look at later is a Volkswagen one. This is often called Dieselgate. In this lawsuit, they were sued by the U.S. government. So Volkswagen Corporation was sued by the government. Nestle, we'll see one that also went to the Supreme Court about Nestle, about whether or not they were, and this will be an interesting topic when we get to it. This is later on when we're talking about special topics. We'll talk about this Nestle case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was actually employees of one of Nestle's supplier that brought the lawsuit because they said that they were actively harmed at their workplace. And because Nestle is such a large, powerful corporation, they should have had the power to force their suppliers to have better working conditions. Okay. Informational power. How much access do I have to data? Think about, this is one place where Google and Facebook or Meta have extremely more power over other corporations because they have mass amounts of data, and companies have to pay them to get access to that data. And Google, well, we think about Google as products and services. They have internet, they have search. What their real business is data, because they save every single activity that happens on the internet and store it, and they can sell that to corporations. If you want to know what your customers are searching for, you want to know where your customers are buying products, you want to know where the people who come to your websites are from, guess what? We're tracking that. And if you want that information, you're going to pay us for it. So data is very, very valuable, and having access to that data, the more data you have about your stakeholders, the better decisions that you can make about serving those stakeholders. Okay, interests. So coalitions, we talked about, very dynamic, can change at any time. Coalitions can have a variety of things. We can have a coalition of shareholders that have all come together to decide it's time to fire the CEO, or we're mad at the company and we want them to do this initiative. Shareholder coalitions are becoming increasingly powerful. You'll see that if you search in the news, you'll see that a lot of this stuff has happened recently, where shareholders have come together and actually voted to force companies to do stuff they haven't wanted to do. Okay, political coalitions. So political groups that are protesting, that are coming together for various things, that want to sway legislation, coming together and using social media, of course, the internet, access to information. Okay. Different things like that. Public interest groups. I gave an example about PETA not wanting companies to sell animal meat for human consumption. They think that animals should be allowed to be free and everybody should be vegan. So those are different social interest groups. Another social interest group might be a group that's wanting to protect the water. That's actually become a very high social interest group I've been seeing in the news in the state of Iowa recently. So Iowa water tests very high for chemicals and pollutants, and actually, in the last year, scientific data that has been released says that Iowa has a higher percentage of cancer per capita than any other state in the United States. And they're tying that very high rate of cancer to levels of pollutants in the water in the state of Iowa. So now we're starting to see these public interest groups start to get louder and louder about how we need to protect the water quality in Iowa in the interest to protect Iowans and Iowans' health. Okay, so we will continue this discussion in the next video.